Thanks to Raivis. My name's Gustavo. No.
Is your daughter?
For real this time.
I'm his father. I am part of the Colombian cartel.
Yes.
You felt good, my boy.
I think 4 if you count my collab with my business partner. 4 different artists online, and they're all alias.
Mm-hmm. And they all hate each other.
Yeah.
So we got beef, dude.
I literally can't reconcile them.
What is up, guys? This is actually the first installment of whatever we're going to name this thing, because we're figuring it out as we go.
Yes, sir.
That actually might be the title.
Figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
Should we introduce ourselves one by one?
Yeah. So who do we have here?
Hi, I'm Joshua Emerson. I own a recording studio in Rockville, Maryland, and I'm a producer and a teacher of music and a vocal coach and general engineer producer type.
General person.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I am Chace 7. I am a singer, songwriter, primarily vocal producer, based out of Baltimore, Maryland.
Sweet, nice. I am. I'm a lonely orphan boy who has. My name is Raivis, and I've been making music for almost a decade, helping artists either learn how to do production or also work on their sound and do some songwriting. And now we're doing this thing. So I guess podcast host.
Yes.
Trying that thing out. But actually, there's a lot going on. I'm sure, even in a place like Maryland, where you don't really think that there's a lot of relevant names that, or at least people coming out of Maryland, or what are people doing in Maryland?
Yeah, it's not an industry foothold. That's
yeah, I'm sure. What do we have here in this mysterious seat right here?
Mystery man.
Oh, whoa.
Hello. I'm Gustavo, and I'm a producer on the side and also lightweight video editor. Here with Raivis and my house. So actually,
it's better to, we can address the camera, but it's, I think, better to have more of a discussion, even like introducing ourselves as if we're introducing each other. Like, this is who I am. Hey, and we can look at the mic, the camera every now and then, but it really is just a discussion between us.
Yes.
So.
okay.
You rat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm. Thanks to Raivis. My name's Gustavo. No.
Is your daughter?
For real this time.
I'm his father. I am part of the Colombian cartel.
Yes.
You felt good, my boy.
I've been producing for about 3 or 4 years now, actually taking it serious. But thanks to Raivis, he's mentored me, guided me, and really built me up and invited me out to be a part of this. And so I'm just very happy, grateful to be out here and discuss music with all of you guys and really go over some of the trials and tribulations that we've all pretty much faced on our journeys in music. So it's just beautiful to see us all coming together and being like, you know what?
Yeah, and I do think it's worth noting that we basically just met each other. Well, me and Chace here have been working together for 7 years in the studio. But Chace just met Raivis.
Yeah.
See, that's how well we know each other. And I just met Gustavo as well.
I met Raivis on the internet.com like a year ago.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you met me very indirectly, and I had to ask you where you met me because I was like, where did you come from? It's
Make pop music.
I love that. Is that where I met you, my son?
So make pop music with Austin Hall.
Yes.
Yeah, we literally, that is amazing. The fact that we were all in that like subgroup and just pretty much after like the same type of thing, which was, pop music. Austin Hall dropped like all kinds of knowledge and did a good job at bringing people who are interested in that and interested in producing in that style together.
I don't know what it is. What is it?
It is a group, a Facebook group, but then it evolved into more than that also, just like a collective of artists. So it's a community. Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of where I would post a lot of little snippets of what I would be working on, just to get kind of feedback of other like-minded artists.
Post like every day.
Literally, like I try to post 3 videos a week, and so my objective, especially when you're doing music full time, you want to have an objective. So you can get lost in kind of like, what am I doing today? Like, what am I doing to push the business side? What am I doing to push my creative side? How am I kind of soothing my soul in a way? So I when I was really like, I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this full time. I was like, I got to get noticed by a niche group, and so I've just started becoming groups, members of 3 or 4 groups and Facebook groups, and Austin Halls was one of them.
Oh,
and so yeah, I would post a whole like little 30-second clips. And what did you actually find of mine that got you interested?
You know, I really wish I could recall exactly how I ended up clicking on your name. I'm drawing a blank here.
Oh, okay.
But clearly I was impressed. So, and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really cool because it was awesome of you to have agreed to join me on kind of a short notice thing where I said, oh, you were like, hey, let's talk business, let's try to connect. And I was like, I'll match you and raise you by saying, come to my studio, we'll have a session, I'm willing to do it for free for you. But
sweet.
I would like for you to be part of my music production course that I'm making for upcoming producers and people who just want to expand their knowledge of just, there's like certain tricks that I have that I feel like not a lot of people know of. And yeah, the course is just going to be a lot of little things that it's just going to bend your thinking. And
hell yeah.
And I was like, I like Chace's voice. And I thought it would just be really cool to show people what it's like to actually collaborate with somebody who you don't even know. And it's just kind of like, well, let's just see how we can feel each other's energy out and just be super authentic. And I feel like, well, how did you feel like it turned out?
I feel like we're besties.
Yeah. Don't touch
me. Also, I think it's worth noting that we're all Ableton heads primarily. Is that worth saying? Yeah, I train on Ableton exclusively.
Cakewalk?
Oh, really? Who?
Yeah. I started with
Obscure,
Cakewalk.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cakewalk, and then GarageBand.
Yeah.
Actually, I would like to actually hear you guys kind of origin stories. Like, how did you guys get into it? What did you start out with, and like, why did you even get into music?
Audacity.
Audacity, pure expression and audacity.
Nice.
I dared to do it, so I did it, and here I am, Mom, 7 years later.
I started in Audacity. Really, that was terrible.
That's a DAW.
Yes.
Oh,
Not just pure Audacity. Yeah.
To get started with Audacity.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was.
No. What? You have never used it?
Never heard of it.
It's like bare bones, the most basic.
Super simple on every middle school computer. It's there. Yeah. It is the basic for a long time, for 20 years or something.
I thought those school computers were only good for the typing software that you had to practice typing. And
there's a DAW in there, and it's Audacity.
Oh, man, I didn't know that. So you started you were in high school, or?
Oh yeah. I started writing music and singing when I was a little kid. But getting into the technical side of it, I was doing like mashups and remixes in Audacity, all terrible, really bad.
At school?
No, at home in my free time. Then eventually I downloaded Fruity Loops. Didn't go very far with that. But once I started going to Red Space Studios, where I met this lovely man over here.
Hello.
That is when I got into Ableton as well.
And he's really picked it up over these years of him just kind of over shoulder learning.
It's hard not to, when I'm like sitting there the whole time,
Well, a lot of clients and artists don't try to learn the interface, and you did.
And he's
very good. For a lot of our sessions, we just switch chairs, and Chace just sits, and that's great for me. I love seeing that.
Okay, so you know about like VSTs and certain go-to plugins that you like, or?
I mostly produce vocals. Currently, I have messed around with Serum and Massive, but it's mostly I stick to vocal production.
And Ableton stock, straight up Ableton stock
operator.
That's what he knows. Not even on the synthesis side, just EQ, compressor,
General interface, yeah.
monitors, that solo, all the main important buttons for running anything.
Yeah, Ableton stock can do it all, actually.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a pretty stock purist. I use Ableton stock and the Fab Filter series almost exclusively, and then Serum for
Yeah, I started getting to Fab Filter a little bit more. Fab Filter Q3 was a game changer.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that the threshold that you can like
Dynamically change.
Hell yeah.
That's
instead of just
insane.
cutting like the overall volume down, you're able to just apply like the threshold of the frequencies and really it's almost like it compresses it in a way so that you can like.
Is it a multi-band compressor basically?
have a
Because you have the
multi-band.
Pro MB, which is the multi-band,
Right.
which is basically a reactive EQ, and that the Q3 can also do stuff like that.
But the Q3, it's inside the volume knob, and you can actually like notch it down and push the threshold.
I have
So-
to admit, I'm stuck on 2, not 3.
Yeah,
I guess I got to upgrade, huh?
Honestly, 3 is worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, but you said you could do that on Ableton stock
Yeah.
on the EQ8. Is it called EQ8?
There are a lot of ways. I mean, it's basically transient shaping, right? Like an automation of a certain frequency range, which you can draw in if you want. You can automate it. There's a lot of ways to do that. A de-esser is a multiband compressor at the sibilance area. And of course Ableton has a de-esser.
That's true.
So when did you start with music in general? What did it? Was it all electronic at the foundation? Was there any instrumental work or anything like that?
So I actually have a pretty interesting story on that end. This is like complete night and day from like our pop dance music thing, but I was really big into like metal and like heavy music. I was the dude screaming at people and joined a post-hardcore band back in, dude, this was like a while ago. So yeah, I was the front man for Brought by Giants, and just as we put out like our EP, it was like a 5 or 6 track EP. We were about to play the main stage at Expo 5 in Louisville, which is like one of the biggest venues at the time. And I was in a tight spot. I ended up moving away to just, get my life together and everything else. And right then and there is pretty much like when the band was either about to take off or fall apart. And I kind of was the
Option
deciding
B.
factor in that. Yeah. But I was always in the studio and I'd watch the sound engineers work on their stuff, and I was like, I never cared to really learn about it up until recently. And then I started to like learn about dance music. I wanted to be a part of it. The DAW I started out in is Reaple.
Oh, Reaper, that's a great one.
Just-
It's
like
cost effective. Yeah, that's cheap. That's good.
Yep. So
It sounds like something a hardcore rock band guy would start out
I
on.
know. No, I know a lot of rock guys that are about their Reaper. Like,
Yeah,
rock
like-
guys love their Reaper. No matter what it is.
I ate babies.
so after a few years, I was like, you know what, I want to get serious about dance music. I got the trial version of Ableton, fell in love with it.
You fell in love with trial version?
Okay, maybe I cracked it. Maybe I played around with
never
with
been
the
enough
version.
for me.
I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm calling your mother.
Right. Well, she doesn't care.
She left me as a baby.
She said, follow your dreams.
Chase your dreams.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what year-ish and how old-ish were you at that sort of threshold point for your band?
Oh, for the band? Ooh, that was really showing my age here. That was like 2013 or 2014.
Okay, nice.
is when we were really going around.
Cool.
2013, about 9 years ago.
Dude, yeah.
10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
So, did you ever do any live gigs? Did you perform in front of a whole bunch of people?
That's
you
what I was saying. Right before our biggest show, we were about to play at Expo. We had gained so much traction in the Louisville area that all the local promoters wanted us on shows. We had just gotten the biggest thing, which was a main stage slot at Expo 5. We were opening for one of the big metal bands. I don't even remember. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, I was set up to play that show. I was in a tight spot, and I just decided to to go take care of my business. I moved out to Vegas. I was dating a girl at the time. I worked at a casino and
Vegas. Whoa.
not
that's
gonna lie,
cool,
I mean,
man.
I flopped on the dream as a musician. Like we were just about to take off, and then I chose a different route.
I don't
You're still here. Yeah.
I
You
feel
didn't
like
flop on the dream. Not at all. It just changed. The dream changed. You know.
journey. I think
For me to do this.
I think that like being even an artist or a creative, like there isn't even kind of a set ending of where you want things to be, because things can change so randomly. Like at least as far as I know, like as far as my journey has taken me, I'll meet people that all of a sudden are now prevalent forces in my life, and I'll be like, okay, this is something that I see is actually speaking to me and reacting really well. I should be allowing this energy to come in, because these are people that are vibing with what I'm doing. So let me see how we can work together. And if people are like-minded, especially Gustavo, I really like how composed he is, and he really sees the value in just learning, and I think that all of us kind of should learn from that. Just like
Yeah.
going, literally this guy came from Kentucky, and I just flew him out, and I said, hey, like I want you to be part of this project, and he didn't ask for payment, nothing. Like he's like, you know what, I want to learn a lot from this. Like I
Hell yeah.
that's what it really
Fuck it, let's go.
I saw the value, and
just like your life can change just based off of like a call, and be like, you know what, let me try this out. Let's see where this path can take me for now.
Which is how tonight was for me.
Yeah.
I got a call from you guys, and you want to be part of a podcast? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because podcasting's awesome. It's the name of the game here in 2023.
And honestly, I don't think anything would have been the same if you weren't here, because
I did bring a bit of equipment, guys.
lighting on it different. From your info has definitely been appreciated. So
Thank you, sir.
But I was kind of mentioning how like being an artist, your journey is really evolving as every day, and every day, like what kind of pulls you towards something, and how you can either add value to it, learn from it, and maybe add it to your own toolbox. And so like I'm really interested in getting to know you guys and what your journeys have been, and what
Musically?
Yeah, musically, and kind of I guess as a people as well, but like what's gotten you to the point where you are.
So usually when people ask me that question, I hit them with a Harry Potter reference, which is the wand chooses the wizard. So
Which one are you? Which house are you? Raven.
I'm the tough one between Gryffindor and Slytherin, it's like the hat's up there, like, where are you at,
Oh, you don't know.
I feel like Gryffindor, but all my friends think I'm Slytherin. I don't know what that means. Right. So, yeah. But, ever since I was a small child, I was fundamentally a vocalist and a percussionist. Banging on pots and pans, beatboxing, singing along to stuff. I always had an inherent sense of pitch. And I came from a family where all my aunts and uncles were just good singers. It's kind of weird if you're not a baseline good singer in my family. It's just kind of in there. So there's certainly a genetic component. I started singing and drumming.
With like a coach?
No, actually. No, I was completely self-taught the entire way. It's ironic because now I'm in a teaching position for so many of these things.
I think it actually maybe that makes sense, because you learned a process that was very different from everyone else's.
Very personal and very find your own way sort of mentality, which is something I want to instill in my students. Be like, here's the way I do it. Here's a way to do it, but you got to find your own way.
Yeah, and I think that's what you kind of want to teach everybody else who's getting into music, is that there isn't one particular way of doing it. And
this is art. There shouldn't be
that's the
rules,
beauty of it,
right?
Yeah.
And it's like I've even tried music theory classes in college and world music, and
I would say I did take a music theory college.
How dare you?
But that's later on. That was after I was already pretty damn good at the shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On an inherent sort of visceral level. I very much understood it. That just taught me the orthography, the written component of it, which I still don't love. If I really want to compose a big piece, I might still do it all in MIDI and then give it to my boy Zach, who's just a amazing on paper type. He'll just hear a melody and be like, oh, let me just write that.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
I'm not that kind of way. So I would usually, for that kind of work, if I need to hire like session musicians or something like that, I would work with someone who comes from that side of music theory, the written component.
I kind of do a lot of my stuff based off feeling. And to be honest, if I even take like 2 days off, 3 days off, I feel like the connection between my mind and my DAW is weakened. And it's like harder for me to completely execute the thoughts or even just get into more of a flow state, which I think a lot of the best ideas come from being in this place of surrender of just like letting ideas coming to you and just experimenting with like little beeps and boops and random parts of samples and sounds and rhythms and accidentally kind of falling into a vibe.
Just like enjoying yourself when you're doing it.
There's a famous cellist, his name's escaping me, but he said, if I don't practice for a day, I notice. If I don't practice for 3 days, my wife notices.
Yeah.
And if I don't practice for a week, the world notices. So, it's very important to be attached and regular with your instrument. Cool.
Yeah, which it's kind of interesting because I also think throughout the years we kind of find different ways to approach making music. And throughout our journey, there'll be times where we sit there and we'll have 8 to 12 hour sessions, even sometimes even longer, and we're just still locked in and we're like, oh, I gotta keep this vibe going because I don't know when I'll get it again.
That's the passion.
And then you might do that for like 3 or 4 or 5 days and get burned out at a certain point where you're like, oh, like, how am I improving? Is this actually is my sound improving? Like, I feel like to me, I always need to kind of have this like back where I create a whole bunch of ideas and I need people to kind of I just need to see if they'll turn their head or give me a smile or a nod or a foot thing. Like, are you vibing with this? Like, people vibe with music in such different ways.
Yeah, like opinions on music on the individual level, like almost don't even matter. It's the strange thing something I say a lot is the artist's favorite track on their project is almost never the audience's favorite. Almost never.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That is absolutely
so your
true.
own opinion of your own music almost doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Is something I've found. And I get hatefully bored making music by myself. Because for me, music is a language, it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
It's a back and forth. It requires reinforcement and different opinions.
Yeah.
Hey.
You got the kitty.
Who's this?
She always has great advice. Whenever you ask her, she always has the right thing to say.
What's her name?
Her name is Katniss.
Oh, Katniss. Ah, nice. Nice.
She'll come hang out with us for a little bit.
Nice.
But I'm sorry, just to kind of pick up where you were talking about.
You
were saying you like to work with people?
Yeah, I like to work with people. I get so bored making music alone. I don't like doing it, which is why I'm a sort of commercial studio producer, because I love making music for other people, extracting the ideas that they have and really executing them well out of their mind. I would say that's my best skill set. Seeing and understanding what they need, depending on genre or whatever, pulling it out of them. Whether that means social work, giving them the confidence to sing the note right or whatever, or to teach them how to use the software, so they can do it themselves,
Getting them past those like barriers of like, I can't, or like when inside they really want to flesh out this idea.
Yeah, I tell people that what is a singer? A singer is a person who believes they are a singer. That's what a singer is. And there's a lot of famous singers who have hoarse, gravelly, not beautiful voices. Let's take Willie Nelson, for instance. A great songwriter, but he's got this like thing going on. That's a singer. Okay, he believes it deep down.
Yeah.
And you can have some people who have a great voice and don't believe in it at all, and the world never knows that they're actually a singer.
Yeah, that's true.
I
think it also comes down to one, also like self-belief, but also channeling a certain expression from inside and kind of allowing the dynamics of that expression to be out there. And like, I also kind of struggle with the confidence to be that singer. I'm always just like, I can kind of vocal produce other people.
Yeah.
I'll like give you a really rough version of what I want you to do, but at least the notes might be there.
What's good. It's there.
Yeah,
what's got to happen.
These harmonies would sound good. Like, it's just like, but for anyone else, you'd be like, this guy is definitely not a singer. But I feel like the translation works in the actual making the song, either with harmonies or creating a melody. And I'm like, oh, let's try this weird thing.
Something you really helped me with as a mentor and then me being one of your students was not being afraid to get the ideas out. Because one of the biggest things I've learned about you is in order for you to arrive at your good ideas, you fearlessly go through your bad ones. And it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if like this is slightly off or whatever else. You're just trying, you're experimenting, and you're not afraid to go through that discovery process.
Throw the paint on the canvas.
Exactly. And that for me, it got me completely out of my comfort zone, got me out of my shell, and I started to just run with my ideas. And suddenly I started arriving at the best songs I've ever written because of not being afraid to go for the bad ones. So I personally just want to thank you for that.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And that's something all artists deal with, and you can fall in and out of it too.
Yeah.
Over time. You can enter periods of greater and lesser self-judgment, which of course is the impasse for every artist.
And I think that actually leads to writer's block in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
We're constantly judging, this sounds just like what I just did, or this sounds like an artist that I'm already listening to, like, how am I doing this is different? I think that everybody, even if you were to copy exactly what the other, like your favorite artist is doing, which I would actually suggest you do to get better.
Yeah.
Is that through the journey of learning what this artist, which you don't actually know how they did what they did. So you're kind of making this whole process up in your head of like, okay, so they sound like this, they need to do it this way. And then when you try doing things, you might make it sound similar to it, but now you just found another voice that you can use.
And you learned something, I'm sure, in the process.
Yeah. Which I guess to me, like I think there's many paths, and one of them is like really getting to know yourself through the whole journey, that like you can find a source of like I guess it is your voice, but it really is finding just things you like creatively and learning how to express it. Yeah, your taste. And it takes a while to learn what you like.
Oh yeah.
And for now it does come easily for some people versus others. I feel like for most individuals who, like you are, I'd say blessed to have a family background that is cultivating towards your music, cultivating towards, like you said, it's like being a good singer is like the baseline. So already you're just in this community of people who love music, love to be a part of it, and just want to create it. And they're not afraid of doing that.
Yeah.
And then for a lot of other people, like for me, for example, what I struggled with, most of really all my family has virtually no not just musical talent, but they didn't choose to really invest in their musical abilities or see what could happen.
I see.
So I'm literally one of the first people from my sisters, my dad, my mom, all the close immediate family. I'm the only one that chose to be a producer.
Hell
chose
yeah,
to actually branch
that's awesome.
out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Break that familial comfort zone.
It's kind of interesting to even think about how we stumbled upon, I guess for you were kind of raised in it, but I remember growing up and not knowing at all what I wanted to do, but there was music around me, and I kind of gravitated. I played clarinet for 10 years, so I was in depth. I had a lot of classical background, but I never, you get kind of pressured by the parents, and they're like, okay, after high school,
Get a real job.
yeah, like it's time to prove yourself. What did we?
So glad I never got a real job. Like, oh my gosh.
You never had a real job?
Well, not never, but for the last 8 years, I've worked exclusively in and for my music company.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm 29 in this body now. So
Yeah.
it's a good amount of time.
What about Chase's body?
What about your bod, Chace?
What about your body?
I am uncomfortable.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
But another note about my family is that they can sing, but none of them were ever professional musicians or pursued it or really played instruments either.
So you're
in
one of
that
the
regard.
first to sit there and be like, this is a lifestyle. man.
Yeah, like
this
we
is-
got this. Like I know it's in me and in us, and like I'm gonna actually do this thing. Whereas they can sing, but I would not at all say by any means I was raised in sort of great musical environment. If that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
how did you get into even running a business from the beginning? Like, where did you?
Nice.
Like 7 years ago. How did you even get started?
Well, that's back to the question you asked like asked like 17 minutes ago or something like that, which is about my journey in music. I just gave you the beginning.
Yes.
As a baby, I could drum and I could sing. And then by middle school, I was doing the pen drumming thing. I don't know if you know about this.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? Everyone had 2 pens in their hands doing crazy stuff. And at that time, this was elementary school, 5th grade, I think. And I organized all my cohorts and friends into a sort of a drum line of this.
Oh, really?
Where, you know, at a talent show, we'd put, 10 school desks on the stage and all sort of coordinated did this percussive experience.
With tons of scratch marks on
Choreographed this entire like pen drumming line.
I'd say that was really my first intro to like organizing an orchestra. It's not an orchestra, but this is the first time I had a position of leadership and organization with music as the backbone and a performance at the end. So that was 5th grade, and still it's very drumming stuff. And then around there, middle school, I started to actually get a drum. My mom, I think 6th grade, got me a snare drum. And that was like when I really started learning fundamental real percussion, and technique and that.
Timpani, cymbal.
Timpani, yeah. And then throughout middle school and high school, I was in the band, high school band, always as a drummer. Although I wanted to do saxophone early on because it's sexy. But then, of course,
It is.
you can't start there. They hand you a clarinet first. And I was like, no, I love saxophone.
Quite as sexy, but
So by the time I was 13 or 14, I was a pretty good drummer on a drum set, bassline stuff. And that's, I think, the first time I tried to form a band, like 13 to 15-ish. And then from that time on to the end of high school, I was always in a band or one band or another. But when I want to say 14, my mom got me a piano, a very nice piano. And I think that was
an
the
upright?
best move she ever got. No, it was a digital piano, but like a really nice one, like extreme velocity.
You remember what
control.
kind?
It was a Roland, and it's the one I still have today. Yeah.
Nice.
It was and is a Roland. It's the one that I've been gigging with my current band.
What's your band's name?
Well, right now, actually, it's sort of a supportive role for our frontman. His name is Nick Dache, who over the last year became one of my closest friends and brothers. So the band is called Nick Dache and Friends.
Okay.
So for me, with this band, it's very much a supportive role to bring out his music. And his album is my primary project, I would say, over the course of the next year. So usually albums are long processes.
Yeah.
And I've only made 3 or 4 ever, having worked for 7 years in music like this.
So
For things I would call like an album instead of
how many
collection.
songs is like in an album for you?
Usually 10 or more. 10 or more is an album. Otherwise, it's an EP, smaller collection of songs.
There's got to be something beyond an album.
Well, like what is an album? The album is the process of growth with all of the people involved. An album is a bunch of people working together over a long period of time to produce 45 minutes of music.
So, how long do you think it takes typically for an album to be created? Like,
Well, it
you said
depends
a
on the
long period of
artist.
Time, like what's the shortest period of time you think an album can be created?
Oof, there's no answer to that. It depends on the artist. It depends on so many factors.
Yeah.
Like, you can have some kind of genius who knows every single thing that needs to happen and they just don't know how to use a software. And they can guide you through the whole thing and we're done in a month. That's possible.
Does the album need to have like a story or like what actually?
Well, that's a concept album versus an album. And again, there's no answer to this question. Every artist will approach their great body of work differently. I like to work with concept albums where there's perhaps an overarching narrative. Maybe you could tell the story of the album in words and then listen to the album in music and then understand it deeper. That's really a concept album. But again, it could be narrative or like it could be somehow tied to any of the other senses. It could be about colors. It could be
Right. So when you're
deeper than just the music.
Right. Well, when you're approaching your albums, you say the 4 albums that you've helped make, was it a concept album? What was kind of the driving force behind these albums?
The relationship that I built with the primary artist.
Okay.
The sound of an album is the relationship of the people involved. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, which is different with every artist, is your relationship is different with every person.
So they didn't have like I need to get this, because there's certain sometimes themes in albums that I actually like. It was interesting actually. Louis the Child came up with an album recently I think it's called Black Mirror or Mirror. I think it's just called Mirror or Marble. I don't remember. But the thing about it, it was just so different from everything I heard from him. But he's already established himself as a really amazing producer.
Louis the Child is 2 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they split. I don't know the history.
No. It is 2 people.
It is 2
I meant to. Did I just say he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's okay. The name indicates such.
Yeah. I knew that it was 2. I knew it was 2. But they were, one of my inspirations, especially getting into music in the EDM, and they came up with this album, and it was just so different, and I felt like it almost seemed like just a whole bunch of songs that they had not released, and they were like, you know what? It's just been on our hard drive. Let's just release all of these. And it was just so different, but they felt like each song kind of went with the last, like they kind of ended their
they
idea.
Bridged into the next one.
Yeah.
Like maybe ending on the same chord and starting on the same chord, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had an interesting concept to it. It made me really think. It was very different from what I expected from them.
But yeah, your general question about the album process is that there are no rules. It's different every time with every artist. There's no way to define it other than more than, 8 songs. Say, I don't know. An album is a series of tracks. So a long listening experience. That's the only thing they all have in common.
Okay. So, Chace, when you're kind of approaching, let's say, what are you kind of working on? Because I know you've talked about singles and an EP to me, but I don't know, are you actually seeing kind of a collection of these songs, a representation of you, or are you just experimenting with like different producers trying to find the right sound that you want to go?
Yeah, I'm trying to find my own niche sound, my own niche genre, to carve my own lane, you could say. So yeah, I've been working with a bunch of different people. I've worked with over 30 different producers now.
Nice.
Made a lot of different sounding music. But for me, like an album or an EP is just like a cohesive collection where you're focusing on one idea, one sound or concept.
Like a theme.
Yeah.
Like an album should have a theme or a series of themes, that ties them all together. Otherwise, it's a collection.
At least sonically. Yeah.
So you think, so you wouldn't necessarily go from like a deep house, dark house, let's say, and then try doing something kind of acoustic and like this mellow, sad. Like you wouldn't necessarily put that both on an album.
Not on the same project.
So for you, the way you would interpret an album is the sonic cohesion of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. So I'm curious, because I do want to talk about the business side, and I think a lot of people can get value of, because I think most people, I don't know what the percentage, but are kind of just trying to figure out how to make ends meet and quit their job and try to jump onto doing music full time, and it's so intimidating because you actually have to be your own boss and figure it all out every single day. It's like, where's the money gonna come from? And so it's like really hard for people to know where to start.
The seed is belief in yourself.
Yeah.
The seed is an absolute vision, a want for it more than anything else with burning fire, and then a commitment to it. You really have to put it out to the universe that this is what I want and I will get it. Almost with the mentality that you already have it, already be grateful for it.
Yeah.
And it will happen.
Yeah.
The gratitude is huge.
Huge. Yeah. I think gratitude, but also kind of having a plan. I think,
of course, it's not all just magic, but
yeah, I have kind of like a somewhat of all right, that's why like when you mentioned how many, like I was making a song every day literally, but I would be like, I have to make 3 really good bodies of like sounds. And it doesn't matter how long it could be 30 seconds, it could be a minute. As long as it is really representing what I can do, I can show people and let me see who comes into this net. And it's kind of how my business has run that way, because I never really focused on putting money into advertising and branding and stuff like that, like trying to create such a big name for myself as an artist and producer like that. And what has really worked, and I think this is kind of the opposite of a lot of people's journey, is that they want to be artists and be noticed, recognized for it, and then they start working with people and they get all these opportunities. For me, I kind of did it where I focused on niche groups that all were kind of like-minded. How do you find vocalists or even mentors? Like, starting out, I'm like, why do I even make these songs come to life without a vocal? I was like, I need something.
You need people.
Yeah, I need.
We all need people.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make music without it. And I'm learning to even let go of the vocal and allow my synths and leads and that be the expression. But I was like, where do I go for? I can't sing. I didn't have that much. I think everyone can sing, but it's about having that faith, that the belief that you know your voice is enough for the song. You could even. It's so cool. You could put certain effects on your voice now with tuning. Like anything could work vocally, but what I would do is go to Guitar Center and just kind of harass people and just kind of say, hey, what's up? Like, I see you like touching the synth and you're making some really cool sounds. Like, you're a producer? What are you working on? And they, a lot of the times, wouldn't have something going on. Either they work for a church or they do this on the side, and I would just try to network as much as possible to kind of just understand what are people doing. You know, like, I feel like even in Maryland, it's like, there's not much community here. It's like, I didn't know about you and you were just 10 minutes away. You know, like
one of the highest rated in the tri-state area.
Oh my God. You're putting me out of business. You're the guy that. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that, having that force of like, how do I get this to work? I really believe in myself. Let me try this. Led me to go to places that had the actual like-minded people to find the answers for me. Yes. I don't know the answers. Someone has the answers.
Yeah, you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. Like, no artist. Like, a lot of times when I hear a hit record on the radio, the way I interpret it is, how many people is this? That's what I listen for. I'm like, this sounds like 25 different people, even though it's a pop song released by one, quote, vocalist.
Right.
You know, what makes a pop record? That's the sound of people working.
Yeah.
The better it is, the more everyone likes it, the chances are likely that there were a lot of people coming together to make that piece of music.
What do you think about having more people in the kitchen, kind of like all putting their input into a song? Because sometimes it can be a little overwhelming with everyone wants to add something different, and it's like, no, we got to keep this idea going. This is the solid main things. Like, how do you determine, okay, your idea isn't actually enough for or like not maybe enough isn't good, but you know, actually contributing to the overall direction of where we're going?
It's about having a kitchen line. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen at one time. But a record has lots of steps and processes to make it happen. So you might work with your session musicians one day and another producer this day, songwriter, and then your singer, then your mixing engineer, and your mastering engineer. You know, those are all different roles to be fulfilled, ideally at different times.
All right. Yeah, we all died.
But yeah, I can't focus if there's too.
All right. Water break? You want to get some water?
Yeah. But yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen at one time is an issue, because you can't have ideas from all these different people just being thrown around behind you, and you're trying to please everyone. You know,
yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
work. No. So it's not,
especially in the same room.
Right. So it's not about having a bunch of people at the same time. That's very different.
Yeah, I agree.
Having a bunch of people fulfilling their one role in the process, and then understanding the process, basically.
Yeah, I mean, every process is different, and also through networking, I think it's so easy now to network with Instagram. You find an artist or a guitarist or musician or something that you like. Actually, one of the songs that we just released like a week ago is this artist Chace from Woodbridge, who is actually coming tomorrow. He's coming all the way, and we're gonna do another session with him and get his thoughts actually on kind of his process too. I think that would be interesting for you guys to hear, because he does hip hop, and my approach for a hip hop track is much different than when I'm working with pop artists. And even with writing, it's like a different mindset. It's like what you want to talk about is completely different. Like how to channel that. One of them might be more sentimental and emotional, and the other one's just about turning up and having a great time and like getting that mindset of just like creating funny things to say, you know. So
For me, it's genre. Genre leads the conversation because with every genre, there's a culture attached, a type of person attached.
Yeah.
And every genre has its own rules, from production to mixing to mastering.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the variation of genre that can happen and understanding how the rules need to be different at every step of the way, from the social element in tracking to the mixing to all of it. You know, for me, understanding genre is first.
Yeah, I think that's huge actually, because understanding so many different elements that make that genre. When someone comes to you and they're like, I want you to make this type of music, you should already kind of have like, okay, this is a somewhat of a roadblock, a roadmap of where I could start guiding them in arrangement and stuff like that. But the one thing I wanted to say about networking was that it can be something as simple as me being in a session, and then all of a sudden I see someone live on Instagram, and I go on and I'm just checking to see who this is, and it turns out it's a guitarist, and he's like playing just like random notes. He's just kind of chilling, 2 views, and he's just like having fun. And so I'm like, I'm listening. Sometimes I'll play my music while the guitarist or people are making music, so just to see what other sounds kind of go with what's going on. And then I realized that what I was working on was in the same key that he was playing. And then he started playing these really cool licks. And I was like, wait a second. Because you could email them and try to be like, hey, that one thing you were playing, like I would love to. I was just like, let me just get on this live. I get on the live and I'm like, hey, really random. I've been watching your stuff for a little bit. Really love what you just did right there. Is it possible for you to like, can we just record while you do that and we just like come up with some other licks, like
Collab in the moment.
out of nowhere we just come up with
Live collab.
literally, and of course, like anyone who just comes to you with such an energy of like, hey, I really love what you do and I want to connect with you.
It's encouraging, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like people put such walls with the phone or like their own self-beliefs, like that people aren't willing to work. It's like, it doesn't matter how many followers you have or whatever, you really can reach these people just with this authentic like appreciation and just showing that like, hey, I love what you do. And also like, this was just such a sporadic moment and I feel like we could capture this right now together. And I think maybe that is my producer voice talking, that I always just see things like, how could we bring this together? Like I see certain people's strengths and weaknesses. I'm like, what can we help like do to kind of enhance this moment? And so actually we ended up making a song, and I credited him, and his name's Isaac, and really great guitarist. And wouldn't have turned out the same without him. So I really appreciate it.
I have a note on that, on the networking, on the working togetherness.
Yeah.
And it's a regional note. So we live on the East Coast of America over here, which is not the entertainment hub of America. There's a huge cultural divide between the East Coast and West Coast. And then the West Coast people are just down to work with each other, fundamentally more. Over here, especially around Washington, D.C., where we are, the nation's capital, everyone is very, what are you going to do? Doctor, lawyer, very off. Like the mentality of the area we are in is kind of fighting against that energy that you're talking about. And so that makes it harder here. But I love a challenge.
I've had a very different experience from like knowing people in LA on the West Coast. It's often about like, who are you? What have you done? Who do you know? But whereas over here, it seems less like people are more down to collab. Like they'll just collab with anyone that they vibe with, you know. It's less about what you've accomplished thus far,
especially like musically. Yeah, because it's at the end of the day, I mean, when it comes to like the music industry, it really is who you know. So just because you had a friend who's the owner of the studio or working on a session with another artist, you might get pulled in that room, and that opportunity never would have arrived if you didn't know that person. And so, especially as you were saying, in like the West Coast and stuff, it's so much more about like the follower count, like the impact you've had in the music scene, and and how your name carries weight that way. And I feel like it's honestly a lot less about truly understanding music on a fundamental level. You know, it's a lot more of people can entertain with my music.
And I feel like that dilutes the artistic value to an extent.
Yeah. I think that there is a truth and a reality to certain groups feeling, or like a hierarchy in the music industry, and I think that is a real thing. But I try it for, at least for what I'm trying to do and push and create and collaborate and fulfill. I try not to look at that being a barrier, and I'm maybe like my approach is sometimes even a little harsh, in the sense where if I see a group of people who look like artists, I will introduce myself to them. I will be like, hey, you look like an R&B singer. Yes. Like and they might very well just be like a fashion person,
right?
You know, like, and actually what can kind of come out of that interaction is, because I remember I was in DC, and I was outside a club, in DuPont Circle, and these 4 guys are just chilling, looking really like dapper.
Why?
They have some sick jackets on, nice ass shades at nighttime, just like chilling, chains like crazy. I go up and I'm like, you guys look like you really have it going on. Like, you guys in the music industry, you guys artists, like, what do you guys do?
It's my first question anytime I meet someone in public.
Yeah, it really helps. Even the person, if you go up to, that is helping you move your furniture, or, you know, if someone's bagging your groceries or whatever, it's cool to see, because actually there's certain professions I would notice that people are more actual, like artists, like Uber drivers, caterers, bartenders, you know, people in an industry that is actually kind of like, they make either their own hours, or they like the freedom of the nighttime. Those guys are very creative, and it never hurts just to be like, hey, you an artist? Like, and even if they're not, or let's say those guys that I approached that were all those 4 really dapper dudes.
And were they artists?
No, they weren't. But you know what? That one of the guys, because I was like, oh, but I want to, like, I just made this today. Like, you want to hear it? Boom. And I play this one song. It was like a Gallimateus type, you know, Gallimateus, Lena Perez. They made amazing music when they were collaborating. But I made like kind of a song like that, with a cool swing hi-hat and this like cool vocal chop and just really chill groove. And I was playing it for them, and they're not hearing the bass or anything, they're just hearing the hi-hat and this cool vibe. And the guy's like, yeah, give me your number. And so I gave it to him, and a year later, after I moved from DC, I was in Virginia, I get a call from the guy. He's like, hey, I'm considering getting into the music industry. I'm in New York, I have some connections in there, like trying to like work with you, like, what's up? And a lot of this, so interesting how, like, to me, I think just having that energy, if you approach anybody with that feeling that like they have something to offer, they will kind of like feel that like small seed of inspiration.
Taking genuine interest in other people is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. And even if they don't even believe it, or they don't, like, they can have so much self-doubt and they don't know, like.
On this note, this is something I find myself doing all the time. When I meet someone in public just like this, and I feel this need to approach them for whatever reason, my first question is always, are you an artist? And then I find myself, if they say no, trying to convince them that they are.
Oh, yeah.
By digging into like, I'm sure you do something.
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't even ask,
like, what is it? You know, like,
I don't even ask, are you an artist? I ask, what is your art? Because I feel like everyone has some type of artistic.
Exactly.
Some type of expression.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
And also, sometimes I see a little bit of talent in someone from something, and then I, again, try to convince them they are and might want to try to do this. But there are two such friends of mine who I'm like, wow, you've got kind of a talent for language of writing. You should try to be an artist. And this is my good friend Kevin Lives, and he became an amazing vocalist and songwriter a year later. But when I asked and approached, he was like, nope. And I was like, try. And man, Yeah, and he totally ran with it.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I think having like people around you actually see something in you and try to uplift you. But I think that there's also a kind of a darker place of when you're on a path and you're not certain where to go. Like one, the self-doubt is like creeping in, and you kind of like want to do anything, like you just keep distracting yourself and you think what you're doing is being productive by like, hey, I'm actually just around artists, I'm around people that they're doing the thing, but you're actually just kind of spinning. You're not really doing much to further your education, further your abilities in a sense. Like I think one, being around the people, but I think the more you realize that no one's going to do the hard work for you is where you're going to find the solace and you're to ease your mind that the only person you really can rely on at the end of the day to figure it out is going to be yourself. And like it's one thing to try to like inspire someone else, like you can do this, like I really believe in you, and I do believe in you, Gustavo. I think that you're gonna, like, if you were to really continue making music, I know you had your self-doubts and stuff like that, and there's only so much I can even do as a teacher, as a mentor, who can try to uplift that out of you, because at the end of the day, you're going back home, you're sitting there with your thoughts, and it's like, okay, what am I going to work on? What can I do for myself? You can be part of other people's projects and try to fulfill certain things for that. But I've noticed in a lot of ways, even musicians that go on tour with other artists, they want to do their own thing too. They want that.
You have to do the work.
You really do have to do the work that artist did to get to where they got. Mm-hmm. Like there is no other way around it other than really having to sit with, what could I do that, what am I good at? What am I not good at? How can I improve what I'm not that good at? So I don't have to rely on other people for that. But when I find someone who actually has something else to offer, I feel like I can meet them in the middle, because I also have worked really hard at what I do, mm-hmm. that I have this perspective that I feel can be of value to them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the kind of energy that I've worked on having and put in a lot of work, where I do feel comfortable if I were to be in a room with anyone, Dua Lipa or even Travis Scott, or like the most random, like different genres. I feel like I have something to offer in them. And I think
you've been doing the work, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do think that that's kind of what we should do as artists, instead of kind of looking at the, like, oh, I'm just going to make friends with that one person and keep hyping them up, and maybe I'll get in their Instagram and try to work my way up networking that way. Like, I think there's
a shallowness there.
Yeah, you're advocating for a focus on the art as opposed to the image,
the social aspect of it, which we get really caught on.
Yeah,
and I think that, like, I guess to touch on the business side, because you guys apparently, I've been doing music professionally, which is, it's something I wouldn't say I've done music professionally for 3 years, because it took me 6 years to believe in myself enough to charge the people I was working for.
Damn.
So, but I still was like, I went from charging $300, and it actually is just as simple as, hey man, I've been working with you for a while, and I'm really trying to do this full time. The next project that we work on, I'm going to charge you $300. Is that cool?
Yeah,
and
you have to increase your price.
Yeah,
because your value is increasing over time.
Even over time, and a year later, I started charging $1,300. Mm-hmm. But it was just through like the slow, hey, like, just want to see where you're at. Are you cool with this?
Yeah,
and because you don't want to completely scare off your person you just spent a while to cultivate a relationship with.
Yeah, it's always a tricky territory when raising your prices, especially with artists you've been working with.
Mm-hmm.
But, for a long time, my studio charges hourly for a lot of types of things we do. And our earliest clients that were with us the first 2 years, they're quote grandfathered in to our old price when they had it. There are different ways to do it. But so it's there's different formats. There's a lot of ways to do this, but for me, that one kind of it made them feel even more special and made the relationship grow even more that I didn't charge them more, even when I increased my price with every new oncoming client. And this is something I have to do every 2 years or so. And not to say this is the right or wrong way at all, but that has worked for me. I haven't yet had a client that worked with me years and years ago come back to me, usually, after not seeing them for a long, long time. But if that were to happen, then I would give them a higher price. But if there's a certain regularity to it, and I've known them forever, then they're grandfathered to my old price. It's just that's something I do.
Oh yeah,
and it works. But all new clients, new price, which increases every 2 years. So
Sort of happened with us.
he's grandfathered it.
Yeah.
Why he still comes to me.
But I started focusing on working with other producers for a good while, about a year, maybe a little more. And then when I came back, I didn't ask for the grandfathered in price. I didn't expect it because I felt like you deserved the higher price.
I feel like you deserve the lower price. Way where the relationship matters.
Yeah.
Keeping you on the team is key.
Yeah.
I think part of it is so. I feel like you wanted to add something.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think one of the most beautiful things about, to touch back on your point, how music is a language, and you can literally just go with other artists and just create. It doesn't matter. You meet each other the same day, and all of a sudden you can be working on an amazing piece together. But not only is there that sense of like language, there's also the connection, and so there starts to become like a community of that language. And then through music, we're able to speak to each other in a way that we couldn't with any other like verbal way. So I think that it's just absolutely important to continue to cultivate it. And when you find people who just genuinely love to make music, it's like you just get each other.
The music makes
right
itself also when you work.
Exactly. That's the most beautiful thing. It's like when you're having the most fun, you create like some of the best things that you've ever made.
Also, working with really professional musicians who are really experienced is such a treat. Like, the music makes itself. Like, if they know what they're doing and I know what I'm doing and we both know that about each other, the music just bangs out. No issues at all. If they're an amateur, if there's a difference in our experience level in our respective lanes, the harder the work is.
I could relate to that, because it's also people that are inexperienced don't really know what they want.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this.
Because you have to coach and do your job at the same time.
And then there's no flow
It's
mode.
dividing yourself.
That sort of brings up a question. Like, as an artist, when I was starting out trying to find a genre, I would go in with a song I had written, and I didn't have a genre in mind. I had a feeling in mind. How do you guys approach that when an artist comes to you like that? They don't really have a sound in mind?
Actually, I love that. That to me is much easier than when they have something really fleshed out. Like, it's one thing for them to be like, all right, I want to sound like Medusa, I want it to be like this, where it's Tiesto vibe or something like that, and you can just execute it. But it doesn't fulfill me as much as something where you're like, hey, I really want to experiment with this feeling. And then it gives me this so much more depth with trying to come up with either we could still go in EDM direction and that Medusa or whatever vibe, but we're coming up with something in this moment of like, oh, I like that exact thing that you're doing right now, rather than trying to imitate.
Oh yeah.
And
more creative freedom in that moment. Like, there are no rules. For some, that's great. Others it might not be, but hell yeah.
Are you a vocalist, but you also played instruments?
Yes, man. Mainly percussion. Piano is also a percussion instrument.
Oh yeah.
So I would say probably my most impressive is the piano right now.
Oh, fair.
It's the one I love the most. But
So you just translates right into the dog.
yeah. Also, yeah, MIDI.
Actually, I didn't mean to transition so quickly, but I did want to keep talking about what Chace was talking about. Actually, I want to hear what Gustavo has to say about that.
Oh, about coming with like a blank slate?
Yeah, someone were to come to you with that, what Chace was saying.
I agree with you. It's far easier when it's just like an idea of what they'd like for the track to sound, and not so much like a fully fleshed out, like, you know, oh, I did this rough demo, or I have like, I mean, it definitely helps with a few reference tracks, but like you said, when we're able to have that creative freedom and almost approach it like side by side with that artist to help bring their idea to life.
Yeah.
As you were saying, you feel a lot more fulfilled. Like, I personally feel a lot more fulfilled doing it.
Well, something I do, I call them a networking session. And I was going to say this earlier before I fell into a coughing fit, I think. But when I reach out to a new artist, or they reach out to me, they want studio time, yada, yada. First, I suggest, come hang out with me for an hour in the studio. So that we can understand each other. And usually that whole process is me just asking about them and their life and their family and their influences. It's only like 20% of the conversation is actually about music. And then from there, I'm able to extrapolate a whole lot more when it comes to Chase's question. If I haven't had that hour or two long conversation and really vibed out with them and really understand who they are, where they've been, where they are, where they want to go, that gives me all the tools I need to be creative in the right way for them. So I would say that's a hugely important part of my process, is having that networking session first. Even if they want to jump right into music.
Yeah. Right. Even if they show up and they're like, I'm ready, buddy. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah, but then I'm like, hold on, let's talk.
Yeah.
You know, if I have trauma. Right. You bring it out. Turn to the art. You know?
And actually, this is a pretty big thing that I wanted to go into. So we really talked about the beauty of music, the language of it and everything else. But what were some of the biggest struggles that really you three have faced in making music a livelihood, in a form for you to like pay your bills, in a form for you to like just start to like get out of your head of thinking like, okay, I can actually make money off of my musical abilities, off of my talents, and grow them?
I grew up feeling intense shame that I was an artist. Like it had been instilled in me growing up, like, get a real job, study math, science, and
we're all told that.
Yeah, I do enjoy those things, but there was no passion when I was studying those things, it for me it really took me like a big life-changing event to really be like, I have to do this. I need to accept this, or I'm never going to be happy.
It had too.
Oh, okay, but there's ultimately a financial question, though.
Right. Well, I think that's what pretty much pushed you over the edge, but in a good way. Like, it pushed you into a place of being like, I'm going to learn while I fall.
Yeah. I had something really bad happen to me, and I am so thankful for it, because it was the catalyst to me finally accepting I'm an artist. This is what I need to do to be happy, to be me.
Yeah. That's the most beautiful thing to me, is when you can turn tragedy into triumph. And when your passions really cultivate that way, it becomes something so much more powerful than just a hobby, or just like this is how I make money, or whatever else. It starts to really embody you, and you evolve into a whole nother level. So that's awesome that you have that with music.
So your question on how to make it pay bills. Well, it's a few things. A deep sense of purpose that I've always felt. I've always felt I have this talent, and I can't just use it for myself.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like my greatest ability is to pull the music out of other people. So this deep sense of purpose, and that, like, I am here for you people to bring this music out of you. That's the foundation. And another one was, I situated my life such that I had no other option. I put all of my eggs in one basket, which is I'm forming a studio business with my partners, finding the right partners, building this business up, because there is no other way.
Because how can you walk if you never learn first to be unbalanced? So many people seek balance and don't understand that being unbalanced is how you reach the next level.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really good. We should just clap.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good. I love that.
That's not, I didn't just make that up. That's from Robert Kiyosaki.
No,
Yeah.
we made that
Poor
up.
Dad.
Yeah, we know we're Dad, Poor Dad, and that's a good one. Mentality is everything.
Yeah, that is good. I guess What do I just reiterate just so I can?
Yeah. So, like, what were some of the biggest trials that you had to go through before you learned to really start to make a livelihood off of your music and be confident enough to be like, I can pay the bills doing this?
So there actually was never. It's sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm confident, I really know what I'm doing, but I tried not to have just such a blind confidence. Like I think that being insecure is actually one of the most helpful tools for you to figure out what's the next step. And when I'm in that insecure mindset, I actually feel like my business is thriving more.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when I'm like, it's when I'm like
Uncomfortable.
yeah, very uncomfortable, and I do not know where my next check is going to come from. I don't know where are my clients coming from. What are people liking from me? Where is this? Because remember, at least what I was doing that got my business kind of off the ground. I mean, it did get off the ground. Was posting in these niche groups, and just every other day I'd make something different. And I'm like, well, was it this post that actually got people interested, or was it this one? Which one did it? Like, and I'll do different genres and different types of posts, or I'll say something different in the header. Like, what's activating people to actually be interested in paying me money for what I'm doing? And so I would just kind of drive myself a little crazy. But what I stuck to is being consistent.
Yes,
Yeah.
tenacity.
Yeah.
That's the thing I was missing in mine as well, Mike.
But
Yeah, I do feel like
Doing the thing.
yeah, and like blindly just like, I'm gonna keep going. But it's still like, I don't know what's going on, like, but I gotta just keep figuring it out.
There's definitely a healthy level of what a classically negative emotion and you can use them to push you forward instead of allowing them to hold you back.
And here's a tool.
And the fears that drive people to be poor are the opposite. They're inverted, and those inverted fears are what drive people to be successful. Because there's people who are afraid of, oh, like, what if I don't make it, or what if I can't afford my bills, and that's why I have to stick to what's safe and what I know. And there's other people who look at that and say, what if I never find out who I'm supposed to be? What if I never find out what I'm actually supposed to become? And that fear is what keeps them away from settling for mediocrity or settling for anything less than chasing their dreams.
I like to think there are only two fundamental forces in this universe: love and fear. I put them on this spectrum. And any decision or anything anyone does, you can kind of place on this one-dimensional thing where that's coming from. A lot of people do things out of pure love or pure fear, and the end product might be the same. But those are the two forces to consider.
And that's so funny that you bring that up. We were talking about concept albums earlier. One of my favorites is called Love and Fear by Marina and the Diamonds. And she made a whole double album, actually, a love side and a fear side based on that concept.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I should relate that question. I really appreciate you saying that. I'm trying to think, so, because 7 years in the business, you're just starting out, like, how did you know what type of clients you wanted to have on?
So here's what it was. I was always a musician. At this point, I'd played many instruments. I was a singer-songwriter. I'd taken AP music theory in high school and then made a few compositions. I understood music pretty well at that point in terms of the organic side of music, and not the digital side of music. I knew musicianship and that sort of stuff. And then at the same time, one of my best friends who I loved to hang out with, classically trained cellist his whole life, he also came from the same musical place. And he was always a poet and a rapper in his own right as well, always writing incredible things. And we would just hang out all the time at his parents' house, and then we got this computer, we got this thing called Ableton on it. We started dicking around on it, hanging out every day, doing the thing, learning, competing with each other in a healthy way, one-upping each other in a healthy way. And after about a year or so, we realized, like, we want to do this all the time. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Very so.
Plus, the answer was, be a commercial recording studio, because then at any given time, even if we're not working on our music, we're working on music nonetheless. someone else's or ours, doesn't matter. How do we make music the main thing all the time?
It did.
So that was the answer we gave ourselves. We realized we're getting pretty damn good at this. Like, we're becoming good producers and engineers right now. How do we leverage this?
Neat.
And then we developed a vision and a business model, and then stuck with it. And then every year the studio grew.
So you were like, I'm just gonna drop $100,000 on all this music equipment.
We didn't even have, we never had like an infusion of great startup capital. And that's the thing. It was a very slow grind for the Fuse.
Yeah.
We were just really good at what we did with baseline shitty.
Yeah.
And which is something when I teach my classes, which is usually a one-on-one in-person master bass, tailored to the student. They hear what they need. And let me think about this. Ask your question one more time.
I was just saying, through the grind, like.
Right. I remember my point. Is that I always talk about the power in music is in the person in the chair. It's not about what studio equipment you have, the VST, the computer. It's not about your physical resources. Mm-hmm. It's about the abilities of the person and their ability to work with people and the equipment that they're given. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was the underlying philosophy the whole time. And over time, we got money, invested in better speakers, servers, treatment, one little bit at a time. It was never like, and we have a giant, great studio.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like that.
So, but was it like, all right, we're going to have a space, so we're going to pay our rent and the rent for this warehouse, or like this?
So how to physically work?
Yeah.
I have to come to my place to really see it.
Okay.
So my business partners' parents, fortunately, were enormously important for the development of the business because they own the house that now me and Andre and a few roommates live in. Mm-hmm. And it was Andre, my business partner's house growing up as a child. Mm-hmm. And his backyard had a tool shed, dusty tool shed. Mm-hmm. So one year we decided to take the laptop back there. And then slowly that dusty they do it.
That shit.
Yeah. Slowly that tool shed became the lab. As it was left, the equipment came in,
the other
piece by piece. But again, it was, it was all floated per se by Andre's parents, who fortunately owned this house and gave us this opportunity to grow in this place. And I'm so grateful to them.
Yeah, for actually got that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people feel like, one, they can't just do it in their bedroom or in a shed or something. Like, they need to have like it kind of looking like they have it figured out to seem like an official studio, which, actually I don't even, again, I think that just the quality of what you do is going to speak volumes way beyond where you are, what like circumstances like you are in, because someone's going to hear that and they're going to just, if they really hear that, okay, this guy can bring something to the table, it's weird because you could go on places like, I remember starting out on Sound Better where I wanted to get people to come on, I was just charging $200 and nobody was interested in what I was doing. I was like,
right.
Why is this not working? I just can't do this. This is like my music isn't good enough. That's what I really felt. And it really wasn't the case. It was just, okay, Sound Better does the promotion for you. And so if you're not promoting it properly through Sound Better, you're just... It's sales and marketing. It's really in the sales. Passion. Exactly. So it's so weird too, because then years and years I'll forget that I even had a Sound Better. And then people will reach out, like I'll see an email that says I got a message on Sound Better. I'm like, what? What is, like, and I look at it and it's just this guy, somehow they found, like, I guess they looked based off of areas producers are in, and it said Washington DC. So like, that's where I'm from. So they must have reached out. I was like, the music I have on here isn't even that good. Like, what enticed you to even want to come? But sometimes it can be literally just being in the right place, just having the studio in this area or like a certain place that people are just like, hey, I want to work. Like, let's make it happen.
Also, it is a super important logistical detail. Incorporate on Google. This doesn't mean you have to incorporate as an LLC. Like, all the back-end business shit doesn't matter. Right. Become an entity on Google that has reviews available for me. Google reviews are the foundation of my company. It's the reason we pop up first if someone searches recording studio or Rockwood.
Oh, okay.
And you can incentivize it with your sessions. Give a discount for a 5-star review, or just do good fucking work. They will anyways, right? Which is the baseline.
Yeah.
But you can further juice it. Get those Google 5-star reviews.
Those on
It's so important. So important. That's the foundation of where we're at. again, like our focus has always been on people, not equipment, not VSTs, none of that. The talent of our engineers, the social skills of our engineers, and then the work that speaks for itself. And then each experience and relationship we build with each new artist turns into a review on Google.
Yeah.
Those stack up.
Yeah.
So that is probably a better answer to your like financial growth question. Yeah, that's a hugely specific and important detail.
Yeah. That's actually brings up. We were heading to Wendy's at 8 a.m, and we were trying to get some French toast sticks. And he brought up a thing that I thought was we were just kind of discussing value propositions in creating relationships with artists, and it's like, how do you determine when you charge for something, or why you do something for free, or like creating a kind of a give and take, because you were mentioning how in your business as a personal trainer that you felt like you were kind of overextending, trying to give these people all this value, but you felt kind of like taking advantage of, or like you were selling yourself short. And it's like, where do you find that balance where you actually show the value but also feel like you're actually
don't have imposter syndrome?
Yeah,
that's
like
what that is, when you know you're good at it but you still feel like an imposter.
I need to prove it. Like, I need to show them that this is what they need. But it really, like, I think you have to, not everyone wants what you are selling or offering, so you're not gonna persuade that one person by giving them even more of what they don't want. You're gonna kind of annoy them, or just have them kind of politely go along with it until you wonder, why did this not work? And I think that's also finding the balance where it's like, okay, Chace came to me and was like, hey, I want to connect and talk business. I was like, well, there's something that we can do that is actually offering value to you in your brand with music, and I'm offering you a free music session, and we're actually here in the same place, like face to face, where we've created even more value just through that. Like, I think figuring out that there is more, just a give and take of being like, okay, if I'm putting my energy in this way, there's a win-win in the situation for the artist that I'm working with, either if it's financially or it's through time, it's for value, for the experience.
Yeah. Knowledge is power.
And I would say their relationship did start with money. This is a producer that's gone Hollywood per se. Expensive. Like, that was the foundation of their conversation. And they didn't have their quote networking session first.
We did. We had multiple long phone calls
before business was even brought up.
Of course, it was on the premise of me considering hiring them. But we definitely had a nice chat before we really made any decisions or gave any quotes or anything like that.
Okay, yeah. You gotta vet your people, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, vetting is important, but kind of seeing if you're that person, because I don't know, I haven't really worked with that many really big names, because I feel like working with the people that are kind of like either in your area, or actually a majority of the people I work with come to me, and they're the ones who find me, and like, I kind of choose which ones I think that I could fulfill something that actually could come to life in my best effort, like with my best effort. And that like, you're gonna get people that are kind of, they fall short, and you're just like, maybe I'm not willing to put my energy into this right now, and I'm willing to pick and choose. But it is kind of a factor where if you walk up to someone, be like, hey, I'll pay you money, what can you do for me? Like, you don't really know if they actually are doing it for the best interest of, because they actually like you as a person.
Yeah, and when people get big-headed to that echelon, man, they get career fatigue, where it is more about the money than the passion. Once you hit a certain level, and that's, I think, the foundation of your issue with this guy, basically, is he got career fatigue.
Yeah.
He only likes to work with famous artists that are guaranteed going to get millions of views, and so, you came at him as an amateur compared to who he's used to working with, and he gave you a shot, and now I feel like he doesn't love his own decision. But again, I can't speak for him, but it's hard to be passionate about an amateur artist when you're at that level, when you know this amateur artist probably is not going to bring royalties back on the back end and all the other business parts, which are so entwined at that level, it's much less about the passion of the music and the relationships and much more about the money on that level.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah. This is, that's how the career goes,
Yeah, no, I was telling you that I think that it could also be something about how niche their efforts have been and how they've been, like, the type of music that they got discovered making, and now they kind of are stuck in a certain realm of this is the expectation of what I need to make. And so if it isn't exactly that type of music, they're kind of narrow-minded, thinking, well, this isn't the sound that made me who I am. I'm not willing to experiment with, I guess they're just kind of stuck in their old ways in a sense because it worked. And so that it's like harder for them to justify why they should be open-minded.
In a strange way, that's another reason why I don't like producing by myself. Because I feel like if I were to do that, I might one day become a slave to my brand of production style.
You think?
Where I feel like my job is to be able to generalize, to be able to work with any kind of
Be adaptable.
Yes, and that, it's hard to hold on to that. So like that adaptability is so deeply important to me. And that does stop me from making a lot of music alone. I'm realizing now, I guess, is I don't want to become a slave to my brand. And I want to be able to serve any of the artists. And the great abstract of music is what it is.
So what do you think, I just should open this to, obviously this is an open forum, so if you want to chime in, you can. So what do you think about when, oh no, I'm losing my train of thought.
It's getting late, guys.
It is.
Being a slave to your brand.
I almost got it. That did help. Keep doing that. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that happened to me earlier.
Yeah.
Need a slave to your brand. You're now producing the own music. Somebody coming to you with a certain idea. It's gone. Yeah, but for now, it's good. Yeah, it had something. It really had something to do with that and kind of tying it together.
It'll come back.
Yeah, I think
It's important. It'll definitely come back.
All right. It's all about, is it better to stick to a certain sound and gain a following based off that? Or do you actually, as artists, people, who just like to express something from a genuine place, try to express it in the most different ways? Or do you try to be like, this is actually better for my brand, so I'm going to try to cater towards that?
It is definitely important to find your own sound.
Yeah.
But as a producer, it's important to be able to do whatever the client approaches you.
There's different kinds of producers. There's like the Skrillex kind of producer. His solo work as an artist and producer is his brand. Then you have the studio producers who kind of put their personal image and career as a quote artist to the side in order to serve others. And that's where I'm at right now. Years ago, I decided I'm going to make 10 artists famous first before I even try myself. Or I even try to brand whoever my stage character might be for whatever genre of music that might be. So I know that's why, also something else, because of this decision I made years ago, something that stops me from producing music when I'm alone.
So why, is that like a insecurity where you're like, I can't do this by myself? Or is it like, why haven't you tried doing it on your own?
That's a deep and abstract question that I haven't given myself the answers. I'm sure a bit of love and a bit of fear is involved.
Yeah.
All right.
I've asked you that question so many times. Because
Giving you different answers?
you've never really given a solid one.
Yeah, because I don't have one yet.
Let's ask Katniss. Good. Yeah, that is actually really profound. Yeah. What do you think about that? Like, because you're kind of trying to make a name for yourself as you're, different, experimenting with different genre.
I think, like I mentioned earlier, starting out in like the hardcore scene and really being into like the heavy music, which we all know that is not popular. That is true, yeah. Skrillex was in, what was that? Like,
What is that, From First to Last?
From First to Last, that was
Yeah,
it. He
that
was
was it.
He was their first vocalist.
He was their lead man.
That's crazy that I remember that.
Max Martin was in a heavy metal band before he. That's crazy.
I mean, heavy electronic music is today's version
of the old rock.
that was available back then. The lack of digital technology is the heaviness that pervaded.
And yeah, no, I completely agree. That's why like the heavy saw waves are like such a big like proponent in a lot of like the dark house and bass house and those other subgenres that have popped up. But in terms of your question, if I wasn't open to explore other genres and actually look into, okay, like what can I contribute? How can I put me into this genre? Like, how can I like find out like the things that I like or dislike? If I wouldn't have exposed myself into experimenting with different styles of music, I wouldn't have felt like fallen into my current genre, which is like the dark house and stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't have found my way if I was too afraid to branch out and experiment with other genres. So I feel like that is a very important place for not just producers, but especially artists to go into is, go into different genres. Don't be afraid to branch out. It's all still music at the end of the day. And as long as you're working on music, you're a musician, and that compounds. So,
yeah, it is also interesting as a producer, like when I release actual songs and I put
like as your brand.
Yeah, like what I'll do now is I'm kind of working with some pretty talented artists that I feel like, why don't we actually join forces on our brands? Like, yes, you came to me as a client, but now if we actually I can push you.
Collabo.
Yeah, it's kind of like a collaboration, but I will charge for, majority of my collaborations because I put a lot of time and effort into my production, mixing and mastering, like all of that. So time's got to go somewhere, and I'm going to have to keep the lights on somehow. So, besides the money part, I really do believe in these artists I'm working with. So I'm like, hey, if we join forces, we can work together to push our brand. So I'm actually releasing so many different kinds, like synth wave, and then I'm releasing pop, and then I'm releasing R&B, and then house, and that's like my personal. And then now hip hop. So it's like I guess I'm trying to like. It's hard for me to know what's that next song that's actually my brand because it's
it's like too, man.
Yeah, like how do I get people to like me for me? But it's like maybe just keep making as much music that I actually like doing, and maybe I'll find a niche following that just likes all of it, rather than because a lot of artists actually focus on just like these are the certain sounds that I'm gonna go with, and then when I go live, tour, and I do this, everyone's expecting these type of songs. It's easy to figure out who your people that are going to be opening for you and stuff like that. It's like, how do you kind of think, where is your sound? What is your sound?
That's my issue. I don't have one, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like, literally don't. I have on my computer dozens of, quote, my productions. And if I were to try to put any collection of them onto one project, the audiences simply wouldn't line up.
Yeah.
It would not make sense at all. Like, it would not make money. I hate to put it that way, but it's too different. Every next thing I make is too different.
Yeah.
As a generalist sort of producer.
But I feel like Chace Evans as such a kind of a general sound. Like,
yeah, your brand, you have it totally as a brand. Totally.
Which, man, he's doing it right.
I do feel like I finally found, I'm finally onto something. After years and years of looking for it, I finally feel like I'm starting to grasp it. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Because I
feel like you've had it all along. You're just starting to.
Maybe.
and I mean, I feel like to expand on this is, for one, like I said, you have to go through your different genres to really start to like find yourself. But I feel maybe not even as an artist, maybe altogether as a musician and a producer and an artist, like, wherever you're at within that spectrum, would you guys say, and Chace is already, that's the case, is niching down. He figured out, like, this is his sound, this is what he wants to really get into, and the further he niches down into it, the more it's opening up opportunities for him.
Well, as an artist that wants to make money, that's the way, I would say.
Yeah. It
Wants to make money. Those two things.
It makes it easier to find your audience, makes it easier to market in general.
Brand clarity.
Yeah.
Oh, there is now way more accessible ways to make money, even besides being an artist as an artist. Like, so you can make a lot of money with sync licensing, and that like is a market that a lot of people kind of don't even think about.
Sing a jingle on a car commercial.
Yeah.
Having, I think having the brand and trying to live the dream as a pop star, as one of the superstars, and getting on tour and getting known by millions and stuff like that, as a one act kind of guy, like I think is super, like everyone wants that, but it doesn't mean that that's the only way as an artist you can still reach a place of like comfort financially, and you can experiment with so many different genres while also doing that niche thing that you were doing to try to become, like that one image for everyone else. So you're fulfilling that, all of the aspects of being an artist, but also fulfilling the bigger dream, if you want to.
Oh, also, I have an add-on to this. Say you're someone that makes all kinds of different music and you're not sure how to brand yourself, then brand yourself as 4 different characters. The world doesn't have to know you're even the same person, depending on how you do it. You have alias people like Daft Punk, right? Artists that have no face, but such a big sound. Or you have pop singers like Britney Spears, where the image is part of it. But you really do have the option to rebrand yourself. This is showbiz. We're all actors a little bit on that stage. You know what Bruno Mars's name is?
Not that. Yeah, dude, totally different.
He's like, why you gotta say that, man?
It's all a little bit of surreality and reality mixed in with any stage persona. You really dial that in and divide yourself into characters where you can articulate, this is what this one's about, this is the image, this is the sound. And I'm also this character as an actor, making this sound, this, what I'm saying. So that's a way to do it. And that's something I've tried to do as I was learning to be a producer. I think I'm 4 if you count my collab with my business partner. 4 different artists online, and they're all alias.
And they all hate each other.
Yeah.
We got beef, dude.
I literally can't reconcile them with an image or anything. So.
That threw me off. That would throw me off. But I got my point. I think one of the most beautiful things about music, especially music, is the fact that, like you were talking about aliases and characters, it's never too late for you to reinvent yourself.
I love that. I was thinking about that last night as I was going to sleep.
It's never too late. Like, no matter how far you are in the journey, I mean, you can start out as a rock musician, and then all of a sudden you're a house producer, or you could be like in a church choir, and now all of a sudden you're a pop singer. Like, it's never too late to just take everything you've learned along the way, see where exactly you want to be, and then being bold enough to just totally rebrand. Yeah, I love that. Totally rebrand.
Love that. You're so right. An option is available to us, and that's scary. like that's like one of my favorite things about me. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had something to piggyback off that, but I'm trying to remember it. My brain is fading.
Yeah, we're getting tired, guys. We're getting tired, guys.
Hey, we're doing this for you. What's that?
So that camera's about to go. It's got like 4%.
Oh, good. I also, having just met you guys, I would like to hear and show and tell some music on your speakers.
Yeah, really do that.
I don't really know what we're on those words at this point.
I'm like, all right, I've been working really hard on this one, and then I press play, and it's like,
one of those themes
like
on
Yoko
Instagram,
Ono
like
singing.
the cowbell in the background, someone's girlfriend screaming.
Mom, this guy's a genius.
yeah.
Me thinking I'm producing fire, me listening to it the next day.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate everyone that joined, and I definitely want to do this again with you guys.
Yes.
And this is actually really cool because it just was so genuine and so spur of the moment, and it was really awesome to get all your perspectives. And I would love to have you guys back on anytime, even tomorrow.
Let's work a format, man, because I might want to do my own podcast here.
Yeah.
Be each other's guests and
This
stuff.
is my new studio. I'm charging. Here we go.
That I'm shocking.
Yeah.
That other one was free, bro.
Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I guess you could find. Let's just kind of plug. We've got anything to plug at the end?
Socials and stuff.
Yeah, if you
So on Instagram, we are at Red Space World and redspacestudios.com. That's how you find us in my operation.
Very nice.
Instagram is Chace7Music. Snapchat is Chace-7. Facebook.com/Chace.7.
Is that the number or the word 7?
It's always spelled out. Thank you. I really should have clarified that.
Got you.
That's it for me.
Cool. I mean, do you have any music coming out soon, or anything you want to be late to watch?
Well, big things are coming.
Yeah,
We'll put it that way. They are. He's been working for a long time, man.
Yeah,
That goddamn tent.
Yeah. What about you, Gustavo?
Well, were you gonna name drop?
My name is Raivis. You can find me on Instagram. Raivis Ordway. Raivis. Yeah, I've got a lot of music coming out. Working with great people, and we have a music production course coming out soon on my website, which I'm going to be really excited to show the process of working with people, different types of artists, different genres, my tips and tricks. Really hyped. We're going to make, we're actually joking about naming it the kitty claps, kitty kicks, because Katniss has been part of the whole process of making the music.
She's a character.
Yeah, so she's actually working very vigorously on the sample pack right now. That's going to be out with the.
Oh, I can't wait.
Over there.
Yeah, so that's to come pretty soon.
Yeah. And if you guys are interested in checking out just kind of what I have going on now, you can find me on SoundCloud. It's a temporary thing, but UXD, you'll see my face and sunglasses right there.
Boom. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bam, bam, ba, da, ba, 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 ba.
Music.
Yeah.